If we have a look at the changing seats, we've given 4 seats away, all of them won by the Liberal Party. Only 3 of them, however, have any bearing on whether or not Labor or Liberal will be in government. Adelaide, Murray-Alta and Norwood, Liberal gains. The one surprise there was Adelaide. In Chaffey, where there's been a constant contest between Liberal and the National Party, Carleen Mayward has lost the seat of Chaffey. It has been won by the Liberal Party. There will be celebrations in the Liberal ranks.
Dan, just before you go on, can you explain, while that graphic is up, why she had a margin of 16.2%, a swing of 8.9%?
Wait till I bring Chaffey up and I will explain it to you.
I'm sorry to throw that into the works, but it's happened several times tonight, and if we can resolve it, we should.
We'll make every attempt to do so. I'll try and read this out without a graphic to go with it, but Tim Whetstone has 45% of the vote, Carleen Mayward 37%. Then there's the Family First at 7%, Labor only 6%. The swing is actually 19.4% to Liberal.
Right.
After all of those preferences have been used up. So, yes, it needed 16.2% to be lost by the Nationals. There was a 19.4% swing. So that's cleared that up?
It has.
I'm glad.
Now, we might actually look... We're going to look at the seat of Mitchell. Now, this has been one of the more interesting... All of the independent seats have been interesting tonight, but Mitchell, one of the most interesting, inner southern suburbs, held by Chris Hanna, margin of only 0.5%. Still, that vote isn't really proceeding all that far. 55.8% of the vote counted. What is it telling us?
Well, it's not proceeding that far because there's still Shido Park South booth to come in. But can we just stay on this for a minute? Now, this is the crucial component. For Chris Hanna to win this seat, he has to run either first in the first preference votes or second. If he runs third, it's his preferences which will be removed. Now, there are 2 other minor parties in the contest. Their preferences, and that is Greens and Family First, their preferences will decide whether Chris Hanna stays second or third. If he goes to third, he'll lose the seat. If he stays second, he'll win it. Now, the computer is predicting he will stay second and win it, but I think it's going to be very close. I feel he will win it, but I wouldn't put money on this, absolutely.
And we're now joined by Alan Sibbins, who is the ALP candidate in Mitchell. Alan Sibbins, thanks for joining us. How are you reading the situation?
Yes, thank you, Dominic. Yes, it's always was going to be a very tightly contested contest. I'm feeling, I suppose, a bit of, relief that the campaign is finally over. But I think we're going to have a bit of a wait ahead of us.
Now, Dean Jensch was just saying that Shido South is still to come in the booth. What would you be expecting to come out of that in terms of support for you?
Well, I would hope that my campaigning in the local area of Shido Park has been quite strong, and I would hope that would resonate in me getting a very good vote.
And what have been the issues for you during the campaign?
Well, as in every campaign that every person I've spoken to, it's water has been quite high. Also, jobs for the South has been very important for our community. And I'm pleased that the Rand government has purchased the Mitsubishi site, and that should create a number of jobs for the people down the southern area.
Now, of course, the Mitsubishi factory closed in 2008, I think it was. Now, how have you gone about trying to shore up the Labor vote in relation to that?
Shoring up the Labor vote, I guess I have a number of connections as old past Mitsubishi workers that I've had a very good long relationship with. And, you know, the key for us has always been to ensure that those workers have been looked after and retrained and moved on into future employment. But the other important factor too is to give them hope that maybe one day that they can go back and work at the Mitsubishi site for a new owner.
Now, given, as Dean Jensch was talking about earlier, the whole play-out of preferences, were you surprised that the Liberal Party campaigned so strongly and threw so many resources at the seat?
No, I'm not.
You're not, but probably quite grateful.
Well, that's if I do get over the line. I think I would be grateful, yes. Yes.
All right, and on that note, I think we'll leave it. Thanks very much, Alan Sibbins.
Thank you, Dominic.
Okay, now we're told that both leaders are getting ready to make their appearance tonight, and we can probably expect to hear first from the Premier, Mike Rann. We're told that he'll be appearing any time from now until about 10:15, but he won't be claiming victory. And then we'll hear, we expect, shortly after from Isabel Redman. But you might be interested, before we continue our seat runs, to hear a more definitive outcome of the Tasmanian election, where Labor has suffered, we're told, a 12.2% swing. The Liberals have had a swing to them there of 7.2%, and the Greens have received a swing of 4.4% plus, which is a devastating result for Labor. And these figures in South Australia and Tasmania are starting to point us towards another obvious question, and that relates to a man whose name hasn't been mentioned once tonight, and that's Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister and Federal Labor. And it's a brave person who does definitive translations from state results to how that might impact on the next federal election. But this would not be a happy night either in South Australia or in Tasmania for the Prime Minister and Federal Labor. Having said that, let's continue our seat run while we wait for our two leaders to make their appearance. We're going to look at some more safe Labor seats. The seat of Torrens in the inner northeast. This is held by Robin Geraghty. Held this seat, in fact, since 1994 on 19.2%. And Dean, with 72% of the vote counted?
Well, you might get sick of me saying this is a rock-solid safe seat and the Labor Party couldn't lose it even in an earthquake, but that is the case when we look at these very safe Labor seats in the north and in the west. Robin Geraghty almost got to 50%. That is almost elected in her own right. In some ways, it's surprised she wasn't, because I think we're going to find here, and I'm waiting to see it, a big swing against the Labor Party of almost 12%. Despite that swing, Robin Geraghty will be returned as the member for Torrens.
Now, the seat of Playford, I'm fascinated to see, is a seat called Playford that's a very safe Labor seat. Outer northern suburbs held by Jack Snelling, a margin of 25.7%.
It is ironic. Admittedly, Playford, the great Liberal, well, some people called him the only Liberal Socialist Premier Australia's ever had. But Jack Snelling is the Speaker of the Parliament. He's won this seat in his own right on first preference votes with 54.7%. Once again, I would expect to see a swing to the Liberal Party, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's slightly smaller. I'm wrong. It's about 10.8%. I'm not making any more predictions for the rest of this night. Certainly Jack Snelling will be returned. Whether he becomes the Speaker again, well, is in the hands of the Parliament.
That might become a vexed issue for him. What about the seat of Taylor in the outer northern suburbs? We've had Trish White holding this seat for Labor on 26.5%, but she's retiring at this election. Well, 76.4% of the vote counted.
Well, this is the second most safe seat for the Labor Party in the whole of the state, second only to the Premier, Mike Rann in Ramsey. The Labor Party is leading on, winning on first preference votes, which one would expect when you have a seat with a 26.5% margin. Looking at the swing, I'm making no prediction, but there we go, one of the biggest in the state, 15% swing to the Liberal Party. So once again, I think it reinforces the point that maybe the Labor Party has to have a look at these very safe seats. It could be coming back from the landslide last time, but there might be more in it. They're very big swings. Lisa Vlahos will be a Member of Parliament.
OK, the seat of Wright in the northeast, Jennifer Rankin.
Jennifer Rankin on the front bench. Again, a safe seat, comfortable, not as safe as some of the others, but she is leading quite well on first preference votes, almost up there winning it in first preferences. It will go to preferences, but those preferences will favour the Labor Party. So if we could look at the swings, again, a 10.6% swing, but the Labor Party will win it. It's a comfortable seat rather than the safe seat after this election.
OK, the seat of Flory in the northeast also. Frances Bedford has held this seat since 97. Now, a 12% margin, but there was a bit of a fright early in the night for Labor in this seat, but then that swing stabilised.
Well, there was a bit of a fright. It looked from one or two booths came in and it looked as if there was going to be a swing to the Liberal Party big enough to make a problem for Frances Bedford. But in fact, she is now 45.8% of the vote, Pat Traynor 37%. When we look at the swing, it's 8.7. It's now a marginal Labor seat, and maybe Frances Bedford will have to fight a bit harder next time to make sure she holds it.
Little para in the